you probably have one of the top uh, audio setups that I've seen so far on the show. You've got the headphones plugged in, you've got the proper microphone rolling. You're clearly not pissing around when it comes to this content game. So I appreciate that to start with. So kudos to to your content tech game.
Hey, cheer, bro. I thought I'd go the opposite of you, you know. I noticed you got a white background and a black top, so I thought I'd go, black background and bright top. I hope it doesn't mess with you too much, bro. But yeah,
More than
here we go. Here we go.
all good, all good. So for those who aren't aware of who you are and what you do, where are you based and what keeps you busy?
So, yeah, my name's Jezza. I am based just north of Christchurch, and I run Making Trax. So, Making Trax is inclusive tourism New Zealand. So, what I do is I open up outdoor industry and help the tourism industry to understand the idea of what happens within the inclusive tourism industry, which we'll probably have a bit more of a yarn as we go.
Mm. Yeah, I wanted to get there. So you've got a what was the name of was it? It wasn't a little doco. It was like a long form sort of piece. What was the name of the your story video? It was awesome, man. What was it called?
Oh yeah, yeah. Limitless, Limitless. It
That's
was
right.
done by We Are Explorers, filmmaking crew from Australia. So yeah, I was pretty stoked. They came into my life for 4 days and tried to portray who I was. So it was a bit of an epic, but they did a pretty good job, I think.
Mm. And it was super rad. I really enjoyed it, and it was just some of those shots and just that whole space was awesome. I obviously been a Christchurch kid, on the come up, just a bunch of that. Your your journey's been it's pretty amazing, dude. Like obviously, it's normal for yourself because I guess it's yourself, but from the outside, it's very um it's inspiring too much of like the cliche classic, but I think the wording of limitless around what is or isn't possible, I think rings true pretty true to you, right? Of what perceptions, borders, barriers, your headspace. How would you describe your headspace?
Well, yeah, this is a really funny one. So for me, a lot of people don't understand. They don't know me. They haven't been through, seen Limitless, or understand who I am or what I am. So yeah, I did have a bit of a life changing incident a few years back, and but in reality, my headspace is the same as it was prior to. I'm
Yep.
pretty much the same dude, and that's what a lot of people don't understand when it comes to individuals like us. It's like if there's this word, bro. I learned this word. It's called sonder. You know, sonder means everybody's got their issues. Everybody's got something going on. So yeah, live your life, enjoy your life, and make the most of it. Really, I don't
But
really worry about other bits and pieces.
no, because the bit what I found really interesting is, yeah, I could see that with the headspace, right? Because uh, in snowboard world, within the business landscape, a lot of people would say, "Oh, you this or that with just the way I roll," and I'm like, "Mate, all I've done is taken my exact same headspace from one thing that I was passionate about into the next thing that I was passionate about, and it's the exact same." Um, it's the same. It is the same headspace, and clearly you sort of had that. Um, when you look at your life now with the things you're involved with, do you get more joy having the same headspace in a different lane before or after your accident?
Well, I've always been a really positive sort of character. Um, and prior to my injury, like I was pushing the limits pretty damn hard. It's probably why I ended up in a position like this. And I still do, I don't think that I've changed at
Mm.
all. If anything, I'm more aware of people, of myself, my thoughts, my mindfulness. Because you grow. But hey, I've been in this predicament now for 9 years. Maybe I would be the same person whether I am in this position or not. We never
Mm.
know. The only thing that we know is the only constant is change, and we change all the time. We're evoluting, and so with different things that affect us in our life, it makes us who we are. Doesn't matter if if it's a positive, or if it's a negative, or whatever it is. These are changes in our lives, and we just roll with it. And how you roll with it depends on the individual. And I'm just Jezza, so I just roll with it the way that
I get it, man.
I enjoy it. It's a game. It's a game to be played, brother.
So when you started the business, when you saw the ecosystem of what didn't exist for those that you felt should, how do you initially approach such a massive market like tourism to, um, I guess, bring awareness to it, bring education to it, then to actually work with a bunch of these different businesses to be able to kind of execute different experiences for customers? Because that it's quite a some flipping massive challenge, man, taking up something like the way you did. So, what was talk me through the start point of the genesis of the thinking for the business with what you saw the gaps were and how you initially started to try to get the ball rolling.
Okay, so making tracks, obvious. Well, not obviously to most people, it's obvious to me. So making tracks, when we started making tracks, I had my injury in 2010. I was in Switzerland, and I broke my neck, yeah, a C5 tetraplegic. And then I decided, well, I'm going to start getting back amongst it. So I looked into the tourism industry in New Zealand, and then looked at things that I could do. And I was blown away at the lack of infrastructure, the lack of a network, if you like, and opportunities. And then I actually, wrote away to a few companies and did a little bit of, you know, oh, me and some mates are going to show up and do some activities, and then we'd book it. I'd book us in, and then I'd write another email and say, oh yeah, by the way, a few of us are in wheelchairs, rah rah rah. And I was really blown away at people's opinion at that time. So it did take a
What
long
was
time.
what was the opinion of? Sorry, we don't cater for that. Sorry,
Well,
that's not possible. Sorry, we don't think it could be possible. Like, what was those initial hurdles commercially that popped back with? Because there would have been, I'm sure, some similar recurring themes, right?
yeah, and they still happen. So a lot of the reoccurring was, no, sorry, we don't run trips for. We can't cater for somebody in a wheelchair. Um, this activity wouldn't suit the client, etc., etc. So there was so much to do for me in the industry. There's so much to do, but I was lucky because I've been in the outdoor industry my whole life.
Mm,
So I ended up going back to all my mates, the rafting boys, skydiving boys, the paragliding boys, and just doing it myself. And
mm,
and as you know, you've done a little bit in the outdoor industry. It's who you know. It's what you know to a point, but then it's who you know. And then from that point, I opened up all the harder outdoor adventures, if you like. And then the easy ones were very simple. And then it's just like getting out there. I just put my body on the line and try all these things, and make myself the face of what we call inclusive tourism. And then people know who I am, and if my body can do it, anybody can do it. It's as simple as that. And for me, the way I did it, the process of building the inclusive tourism market, was, I'm a doer. So I'm not a talker. If I'm going to say something, I'm definitely going to do it. So I just put myself out and went for it. The evolution of making tracks, which is now quite massive internationally and nationally, it just came because it was a natural thing. I'm definitely not a big marketer or that sort of side of it. But then it must have been at the perfect time too, because I started doing talks with tourism industry, the TIA, with BIATA, the backpacking youth associations, And now I do a lot more talking within the tourism industry and open up all of the companies that we can open up, building harnesses, yeah, just making things possible really for everybody, Robert. And it's quite interesting, because people talk about a disability, or I talk about inclusive tourism. So I talk about everybody,
Mm.
um, and this is the big one. And if you did want to talk about the inclusive tourism market, then we can talk about the disabilities. 2013 census said 1 in 4 Kiwis have some form of disability, whether that's a learning disability right through to a full, obviously something like myself. But then you have to think of people that come into the country, are the Indians and maybe the Chinese when they return, that travel with their families, with their grandmas, etc., etc. And there's 75 million wheelchair users on the planet. 15% of the world has got a disability. And then we have to think about all the baby boomers. So I'm not just opening the industry for the odd few. It's about making a destination and getting everybody the opportunity to get out there. And for myself, I'm quite lucky because I've been in the industry for a really long time, and I definitely know what's possible, and I know
Mm.
how operations work, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, it's a mega mission. It's super awesome, man. I think even just saying there, 1 in 4 New Zealanders, but then international is 15%. So there's 10%
Billions, bro.
that
Yeah,
have
there's
some
billions. That's pretty
Mm.
insane.
the um the tourism market right now, it's at zero, right? How do you see, just from tourism in general, slowly rebuilding back up from in your world? Like, obviously you're extremely connected all through the grapevine of everyone that's running all these different operations and stuff. The feedback and everything that you've sort of had. What's the sentiment in the streets of those that are within tourism at the front lines? How's everyone's headspace, and where are they sort of thinking at for this next phase?
A lot of people are worried. Um, a lot of the companies won't be able to open. Though, like if we're just going for the New Zealand market and we're just going for the maybe Australia if it comes, then what you have to imagine is, we're not going to fill all the seats that we used to. And then we also might only be able to open during the busy times, during the school holidays, during the weekends, this sort of thing. Because if you have large businesses and you're paying big overheads, then it's just not going to work. This is why Ngāi Tahu Tourism and a lot of these bigger ones are really struggling, because they have to look at all of the people that they employ. You have to look at all the marketing, you have to look at all the managers, you have to look at everybody that's getting the wage. So it will come, and it will come slowly. And truthfully, in my opinion, I think the owner operators in the smaller companies where the driver can hold a telephone and they can actually just run the business without having huge overheads. They're going to be the survivors in this race at the moment, because they might be able to go and do some market gardening and do bits and pieces to keep
Mm.
the food on the table, but also keep that business going for when the industry does reappear. So it will come back. It's just this time in between that, if you have big overheads, if you're renting spaces, if you're paying big mortgages, then those ones are going to be the ones that are going to suffer. And in the industry, a lot of outdoor companies these days are corporations, like Go Orange, Ngāi Tahu, InFlight. These are big companies and they employ a lot of people. And a lot of those people aren't frontline, they're not the ones that are doing the activities. And when I started in the outdoor industry, it was owner operator. It was somebody, that can do a rafting trip, and the vehicles there, and they can answer phones and all that sort of thing. So the overhead hasn't been that big. And the other thing too, I believe, Robert, is over the years with the idea of everybody marketing and selling trips, because if we want to make it available for Kiwis and we want to make it available for even the Australian market, we have to think about, why are these trips so expensive? Why is the tourism industry gone, to this crazy money value, $200 for a rafting trip, when in reality it shouldn't be that expensive. But then you have to think of booking companies that, take 30%. It's pretty nuts. So it's about just changing the industry back, going back a couple of steps. And then we've been living a dream. We have been living a dream over the last 10 years, I'd say. The amount of tourism New Zealand's been seeing, and being able to get our Airbnb and pay a mortgage of, $400 a night, and then being like, oh, sweet as, I just paid off my $1 million house in Queenstown. It's like, well, yeah, it was a pretty awesome dream, but, the reality of the fact is sometimes we might be living outside our means. When something like this comes, it's a really big reality check and a wake-up call.
Yeah, the buddy Stephen Hall, who's the CEO of Tourism New Zealand, he was saying, it's almost like a startup, back from ground. I think you're exactly right about the operators. They're going to trim to the fair ability to be able to come straight on full time with all staffing and all the other overheads. So it almost will feel like a kind of a part time hobbyist tourism space, right? Where the owner operator may only be able to open for the weekends or school holidays or this, and they're going to have to balance off other things as well as that. And I think that the journey forward is going to be obviously longer than some expect, especially for places like Queenstown that are so dependent on it. But hopefully, with the bubble, some type of potential Anzac bubble coming up, that could be good. When you look at there's a lot of parts that are broken. That you're talking about the booking fees at 30%. You're talking about a whole bunch of this experience. $200 for a boat trip, which most Kiwis probably don't go on because of the pricing. It's probably not targeted, not for them, and there's probably other ways broken. When you look at the tourism market now, if you were to, everyone's talking about reimagining and redesigning this landscape, how would you redesign and kind of reimagine what New Zealand tourism should or could be if you were to sprinkle a bit of magic dust over it?
Well, I'll go back to the roots. Why is New Zealand New Zealand? Why do people come and enjoy what we have? And it's going right back to our landscape. It's going right back to, who we are as Kiwis. So it's making it more environmental, doing things like adventure-based learning,
It's interesting.
involving schools, involving communities, all of the big companies that, you know, all of these huge companies that we have in New Zealand. It's about, getting your staff to go down and joining up, and, just going right back to our roots, and going from that point forward so Kiwis can enjoy what we have. When was the last time that you went on a road trip and, did a bungee and, went down to Fiordland? Have you ever been to Fiordland, bro?
I
It's
have.
You have.
Amazing.
Awesome. It's a pretty incredible place. So it's understanding that the in what we had prior to, which will possibly come back in the big future. It's about involving our local communities, our people, and everybody understanding that New Zealand is an incredible place, but we need to look after it. And it's not about big golden vehicles and money printing. It's about looking after the community. It's about looking after the locals. It's about looking after the environment, and then bringing it all back. And that there will totally bring evolution into the industry and make more foreigners that come in to enjoy our country recognize what New Zealand is about. Not so much the big buses heading all over the place and the everybody complaining about freedom camping and all these sort of things. So if we get out and we see what it's like and we enjoy it, then you know, and we're returning custom as well. If I enjoy something, I'm going to go back and do it, and I'm going to do it again and again and again. Whereas the foreign market is we come in, we enjoy the New Zealand, and then we go to Australia, and then we go home, get a real job. This is mainstream. And then maybe when we have our children, we come back and show our kids where we've been. And then if we're lucky, we come back as grandma and grandpa and show our grandkids. That's 3 times. But you imagine the Kiwis, you know, we go there every holiday. We enjoy it every holiday, and they know us. We're like, "Hey, Fred, how's it? It was great to have that trip. It's great to see you again. Let's enjoy it." So it's about involving New Zealand in what we have, which has sort of been, forgotten about.
I get it, man. And before we go, I was going to ask you, what are you most hopeful about for your sector and the way this rebuilds? What are you most hopeful for?
For making tracks, you mean, or
Both, yeah.
what I'd like to see? Are we there still? What I'd like to see, Robert, is
Yeah.
that people are aware of what's available in New Zealand. And for me, I'd say 90% of my clientele that come and enjoy New Zealand are foreigners. And what I'd like to see is Kiwis getting out there and enjoying it and being aware of what's possible. Because trust me, there's so many awesome activities that are possible. And to enjoy and fall in love with New Zealand again is what Kiwis have to do, because it's not only going to help the tourism industry, it's going to help every industry. We might even see that, ooh, the rivers are getting a little bit manky down in the South Island. It's like, talk to a river guide and he might educate you a little bit. So it's about getting out there and seeing what's available. So I'd love to see Kiwis traveling more. That's my big issue. I think it's we've forgotten about our homies, and that's where we should go for. And it's also with the inclusive market, what I'm dealing with, and what I'm opening up. It's like I'd love to have all the outdoor companies join the inclusive tourism movement with making tracks. In fact, I'm doing a free year at the moment. Any outdoor company can join making tracks. And what that does, the larger you allow diversity into your company, the larger market you're going to have, then the more clientele you're going to get. And it's simple if you're an operator, to look at the big picture, look at the whole market. Um, that's where I sort of my imagination anyway.
Jez, I think you're totally right. Though it will start with back in the local market, then obviously regional, then national as these things go out. Tim Alp, he was in the comments the other day, and one of the things he was talking about, bluff over Bali, and the idea of like going hyper local instead of global, and actually really doubling down on that. For those that are wanting to find out more about making tracks or inclusive tourism, like where can they go? What can they do?
Oh, okay. So it's easy. Making tracks with an X. .co.nz. That's our website. It's also our Instagram. It's also our Facebook. And all the information is clearly there, or else they can just get in contact with me. I'm a pretty friendly, pretty easygoing sort of character, and you can just drop me an email, drop me a line, and let me help assist get you out there and enjoy it, whether it's your kids, whether it's yourself, whether it's your friend down the road. Yeah, easy peasy. Making tracks with an X, bro.
And definitely scope out Limitless. It's such a cool video. Have you crossed paths with a young lady by the name of Grace Stratton yet? Stratton, Grace.
No, do you know
I'm
her?
gonna introduce you to. I think you can make some power moves to help make the world even more of a better place, which I link up with. But no, man, honestly, bro, like it was mega props. It was very clear that your headspace transition from one world into the next, and you're taking the same mindset with how you do it. So big ups and kudos to you, man, and stay out of trouble down south down there.
Yeah, I will, man. It's a beautiful day, and we're going to get out and enjoy it. One thing too, I will say, I've been doing this real world resilience yarn lately. It's
Yeah.
been pretty fun, eh? Just a few tips of my trade, just for some carry on. So if anybody is interested, just hashtag real world resilience, and you can get a few insights because going through what I've gone through in my life. Yep, tetraplegic Jezza, he can fill you in on a few fun ideas.
Dude, good on you, man. Props. Well, enjoy the rest of the day, brother, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, awesome.
Shut,
Cheers,
bro.
buddy. Ciao,
Later, bro.
ciao.
Peace.
Laters.
What a good bastard. Making tracks limitless. Definitely watch it. Definitely check it out. It is absolutely incredible. Limitless, Jezza Williams. Have a look and scope it. Inclusive tourism. Absolutely love it. The opportunities to be able to link and work with a bunch of brands and businesses now for that is going to be bigger than ever. I think he's totally right. People need to see more of New Zealand and back each other. So that's going to be cool. Stoked you. Hopefully you like that one. The bro Jez. Awesome times. I'll see you soon.